Welcome to the Rabbit Hole PVD podcast. I'm Lee McAdams.
I'm Kyle Carlson.
And welcome back. This is a special episode we have here we're excited about. We have a good special guest we're going to talk to in a little bit.
Covered a lot of topics, a lot of good topics. We got Lucas Cantor on the episode today.
Oh, yeah.
Took a Zoom call from Los Angeles, California to catch up with him and see what he was getting into. He is a music producer and also works in music film, all kinds of
composer, great musician himself, guitarist, multi-instrumentalist a little bit. He's worked on all sorts of soundtracks, and he's worked with Lucasfilm, Disney, Netflix, and even the Wu-Tang Clan a little bit.
Pretty much everything you could imagine.
But, we're going to get into that with Lucas, and I just wanted to give a couple quick shouts. First off to our guest on the last episode, Brian Rosa.
Rosa, working hard.
You can find that episode everywhere, and shouts to Anchor Podcasts for helping us get out there on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Absolute
and everywhere.
Shouts to them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
So, without any more...
We're going to roll right into this interview is what he's trying to say. So let's get it.
Lucas Cantor.
On Zoom. Let's go.
All right, so we're here with Lucas Cantor. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Cool. And we're just going to play one of his tracks he sent me earlier. It's called Mirror. And he's going to tell us a little bit about it.
Just get into it and digest a little bit of what he's all about. So you're doing everything except for the drums on this track, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Can you hear this right now? Can you hear the music?
I can hear it, yeah. I hear it mono.
Yeah. So, who is it that you worked with on this track?
So this is a drummer named Herbert Pirker who I met in Vienna when you guys were probably 10 years old. He was in a band that I just just hooked up with out there, and I just thought he was amazing. So when he came to New York a couple of years later, I recorded him in my studio there, and I just said, I was like, I didn't know he was coming. He just kind of called me when he got there, and so I said, all right, just come to the studio. I'm going to give you a click track, just just do something. And I just gave him a bunch of different tempos, and an engineer friend of mine and I later just added stuff to it, and we chopped him up a little bit, but mainly pretty much what is on the record is just his takes, and then I put stuff on top of him. He just did it in like kind of a song form, and he's just really
love it. I love the jazzy nature of it. It's got almost that jazz fusion sound. It's really powerful. You can tell it's got that spontaneousness, but it's definitely put together well. There's structure there, and when it gets to that big build part, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I did. I tried my hand at making a music video too for this, which is you can check it out. It's on my Instagram, and it's probably on YouTube. I think I uploaded it to YouTube.
Try to add a link for that too.
Yeah, well, I'll send you guys a link to that. But it's cool. So I did this album. I recorded all this stuff and finished it in 2009, maybe 2007. And it wasn't until COVID that I just dug it up and was like, oh shit, I never released this, and So I just decided, I don't know what I was waiting for at the time. I guess I thought it wasn't ready to go, and then listening to it with fresh ears later, I just thought, oh, this is good. I'm gonna release it, and it's been one of my more popular indie, not associated with any film or anything, releases that I've ever done. So
yeah, it's really cool, and that is cool. You do a lot of film work and composing for films and television.
Yeah, we found that very interesting about you too.
Yeah. So, but before all that, what inspired you in the first place to start playing music? Is there a certain artist or a moment in time?
Well, there was a moment in time. I was in 8th grade, and there was we had a student center lounge type thing, and there was a guitar in it, and there was this girl who I went to school with, and I thought that she would be really impressed if I learned how to play a song on the guitar.
Nice.
And So I spent a free period learning how to play like nothing else, nothing else matters, or like open E.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And
Metallica.
she was, Metallica. She was. I don't think she even noticed, but I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And so I just started taking lessons, and that's how it all started for me.
That's awesome.
Are you gonna pass that? You gonna pass that? What you smoking there? Pass that over here.
Give him the joint.
Is that legal in Rhode Island?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's legal in a lot of New England now.
So where are you out of right now, and where are you from?
I'm in Los Angeles, where we've had legal weed forever.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it's no big thing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife was actually was saying that she didn't understand that there were some people, because we're in like a different phase of the COVID vaccine, I think, than most of the country, where like it's people with medical conditions now are getting it, and all the old people have gotten it. And so some people, there's an epidemic of some Californians just kind of lying about having a medical condition because there's no background checking.
So they can get that.
And my wife was like, she said, how can anybody do that? And I said, well, we were conditioned by 10 years of medical marijuana. So Californians are used to just saying like, oh yeah, my back totally hurts.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's true. That's a layer.
Yeah.
That's a deep layer of. So you were born in Los Angeles too?
Hell no. I was born in Boston.
Oh wow, cool.
Austin.
So East
We're
Coast.
neighbors.
Awesome.
East Coast, yeah. I grew up in New York. I didn't move out here until 2010. And I just moved out here to do more film, because this is sort of where the film industry is. But I was born in Boston, grew up in New York.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And how kind of did you get involved in the film industry?
Well, my dad makes documentary films, so I was sort of in. So I was his production assistant for a long time. So on that side of the industry, I'd been doing since I was very young, and I got a job when I was out of college, or when I was in college, I guess, still working for NBC Sports and Olympics, doing music supervision and stuff for them. And I did that for many years. And I just, after a couple of years, I also had access to a studio, because the company I was doing that with was also a music production company. And they sort of said, we're out of here at 6. So between 6 and 10 a.m., it's yours. Just, clean it up. Don't,
Awesome.
Don't burn anything down. And I almost made it without burning anything down. I can tell you that story if you want. But yeah, they sort of, so they allowed me to use the studio. And I realized, after a while of listening to some of the music in sports, I was like, I can make that, I can do that kind of stuff. I'd gone to music school, I played guitar, and I just started making, on my spare time, really started making tracks and submitting them, and people started liking them. And after a couple of years, it just got to the point where I thought I should do this professionally. And I came out to LA. I went to a recording session out here with like a real orchestra for a big movie, and about 10 seconds into that, I thought, well, this is where I've got to be, because this is obviously a different thing.
Awesome.
So nice.
Yep.
And were you involved with like live music and playing with bands and stuff before that, or were you?
Yeah, I have played many a concert and done many a recording in a room that is very similar to the one you guys are sitting in right now.
Very nice. The roots.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So it was music first and then film?
Yeah, I studied jazz guitar. I went to SUNY Purchase in New York, and I studied jazz guitar there. I got to study with some really great guitar players and jazz musicians who are around New York City. And I really liked jazz. I thought it was a great way of understanding how music works. And I came up in jam bands. Yeah, I came up doing jam band stuff, and I was like, well, there's no degree in jam bands, but I guess jazz guitar is the next best thing.
Yeah.
Jazz is definitely the a core of all the jamming. So
yeah, I have to ask. Yeah. Curiosity, who are some of your favorite jazz guitarists? Just because I love that style.
Yeah, well, my first the first jazz guitarist I was really introduced to was well, actually, I should back up. So John Schofield lives in the same town as me, or lives in the same town as my parents. But so he was like a person I knew growing up. Cool. His daughter is the same age as me, and I knew his son pretty well too. And so he was the first jazz guitar player that I was ever really exposed to. And I think I probably saw him live before I heard a recording.
Yeah.
And because he used to, he would play at the library.
Yeah.
What a great experience.
Yeah, it was pretty deep. Actually, one of the only times I was in Providence, John had a concert there, and needed an amp that was in New York. And so like he called me and, you know, basically was like, I'll get you a hotel room if you could pick this amp up at my house and drive it to Providence right now.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah. So I did that. I got to hang out with him. I think Bela Fleck was also there and sat in. It was like a crazy sweet concert. Bela Fleck is also like a hero of mine, a musical hero of mine. You know, the Fleck tones.
Yeah.
Yep.
But jazz guitarist to get more you know, jazz guitar nerdy on you. Wes Montgomery Boss Guitar was the first like jazz album that I ever really got deep into.
Yeah.
And then sort of the East Coast guys, Pat Martino. I was just like thinking about him the other day for some reason.
Yeah, that.
And Matheny, obviously.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my favorite jazz guitar albums is I don't know if it's my favorite, but yeah, it's one of my favorite. It's sort of a little known album called Trioing by a guy named Jonathan Kreisberg, who's a New Yorker.
Oh, yeah.
And it's him and Ari Honig on drums and Johannes Weidenmuller. And Ari Honig is one of those drummers who's like an amazing melodic soloist on the drums.
Yeah.
And it's just three guys playing standards, listening to each other like so beautifully. It's really a great record.
That's cool.
Yeah, we could do a whole hour of me just talking about jazz guitar records.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good quality to have.
Right. But we'll get back into more of your film work. It seems to be your main focus, right?
yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
What's your current project that you're working on right now?
Well, so one of the reasons that like I was a little bit late today, and one of the reasons that I've been like less than responsive on email is all of my projects came back like 2 weeks ago. Like it went from I was sitting in this room, like I built some shelves, I organized some stuff, like I just had nothing to do for a while, and they all came back 2 weeks ago. And part of the nature of working in entertainment is that like I basically can't talk about the things that I'm currently working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can tell you, but in general terms, you know, it's like TV stuff, and so it's all stuff that'll come out.
People
you know,
just have to
in the next
stay
couple of
tuned
months.
after this interview so they can find out what you're getting into next.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all really fun stuff though, and it's great to like turn the. I'm pointing my composing rig is right there. Here, I'll give you a little shot. So.
Oh wow, nice.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, to turn on. It was good to like turn that on, and the project I did last week was like a TV type project, and I haven't done a TV show in you know, probably about a year. I haven't really had to score anything to picture, and so I was really, the first couple of minutes of music I had to write were really just like getting the cobwebs out and remembering, oh, okay, right, this is how you connect this computer to this computer. But yeah, the last thing I did that is, I guess, kind of notable and is out now is I wrote the theme song to Major League Soccer on Fox. So
wow,
that premiered in October, and now the season is starting up again, and so that music is still getting used. So if you're one of the dozens of Americans who enjoy soccer.
For sure.
That's funny. You've also you've done a lot of work with the Olympic Games.
Mm-hmm.
Actually.
Yeah, I do mostly music supervision for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So and you know, music services is what it's called, where you're doing kind of the paperwork and back end associated with music. And when I first started, it was more of a supervision role, which is a little bit more creative, and now it's kind of like a, you know, every other year gig that I do, where I just handle some of their back end stuff.
Yeah.
So the title, I guess, is as associate producer, but it's a big credit, and it's something I'm very proud of, but it's one of the least like interesting to talk about things.
Yeah.
Still something to be proud of, though, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's an amazing, to be involved in the Olympics on any level is incredible.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And you've done work with Dreamworks and Lucasfilm, Disney, and then I found it interesting, you did the Wu-Tang Clan in space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about
that. Was okay. That's one of my favorite projects I've ever done. So, my friend Sam Spiegel, who goes by Sam I now, is a director and a musician and a composer who I've known since we were in middle school in New York together. So I've known him for at least 10 or 15 years, many years. I've known him for a long time. And we're, so he, this was it wasn't the first thing he directed, but it was among the first things that he had directed on a larger scale. And because I knew him more as a composer, and we had done a lot of music projects together. But he asked me to be the composer for Wu-Tang in Space, and he had this like. He's just one of those guys, like, he has this very specific but totally uncompromising artistic vision. And this was just his brainchild, him and another creative director who was really incredible in Los Angeles. And they just had this brainchild, and I was brought on to score it because I like Wu-Tang, but more importantly, I think we sort of share a sense of humor. So, we just take the ridiculous stuff seriously, make the serious stuff ridiculous.
Yeah.
And yeah, he hired me for the first scene they gave me for that was the monster fight. And he hired me, he called me, I was in Maine at the time, and I was at my family house in Maine, and he said, so I've got this monster fight, this is kind of the thing I want to start with, and I want it to be like Godzilla, like do you know that movie with Godzilla and Mothra? And as he's saying this to me, I'm sitting in what is the living room of this house, thinking like all I did all summer in this house in Maine when I was a kid was watch Godzilla movies. I know exactly what he's talking about. I've seen the Godzilla and Mothra movie 200 times, and I just went to my laptop and just whipped up something just super shitty mock-up on the piano. But I was like, I think this is the right thing, and he was like, yeah, that's gonna do it. It's great. When I get back to LA, we'll get on it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah, and it was really fun. So yeah, I'm proud of that, and I'm glad you brought it up because I feel like less people have seen that than should have seen it.
Yeah.
Check that out if you haven't seen it.
Right.
Peep it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
And I noticed you've also been doing work with AI technology in composing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to think a little about that. I don't know anything about that.
Well, nobody really does. So it's I finished here. I'll show you the phone. So I finished Schubert's Unfinished Symphony with artificial intelligence with this phone. This is a Huawei Mate 20 Pro. Huawei is the biggest technology company in the world, but they don't sell any phones in the U.S. So I had never heard of them at the time, and my agent, sort of told me about this gig, and I was like, "What's Huawei? Is that a company? Like, what is this?" And he was like, "It's like the biggest company in the world." So I had no idea, but I didn't know it was a big deal. So I was just like, and I think part of what made that part of what made getting that job less stressful for me was that I had no idea who they were. So I wasn't really stressing out about getting the gig. If Apple called me to do the same thing, I would kind of be losing my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, what is it? I can't even pronounce the name of this company. Whatever, just send them here's my idea. Just send it to them. And but yeah, we used their phone and their AI technology to come up with a speculative finishing of Schubert's Unfinished Symphony, and we performed it in London, Cadogan Hall, with an orchestra. It's recorded. I'm gonna release it eventually.
Yeah.
And this will be an exclusive for your podcast, but I reached out to I don't think I should name him, but I reached out to a very, very well-known mastering engineer to master the Unfinished Symphony. And he's like, an older guy who's probably won 150 Grammys, and he's from New England. And I just reached out to him. I don't know him. I just reached out to him and said, I have this album. I want to get it mastered by you. I'm paying for it myself. What can you do for me?
Yeah.
And he said, based on the press on this, I'm really interested. And, why don't you send it to me and I'll see what I can do. And so I sent it to him. A couple weeks later, I haven't heard anything. And I get a note back from him that says, I really enjoyed it until about 10 minutes into the third movement, where you did this particular string run that just wasn't ideal, wasn't idiomatic of that period. Yeah. And so I think you really got away from the period. And so I don't really buy it, but I mastered it anyway for free. Here you go.
Wow. That's amazing.
So yeah, everyone's a critic though, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, but what an amazing thing for him to actually just take the time for you.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, you want to give me $10,000 worth of mastering for free, you're entitled to give me your thoughts on the piece. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. That's perfectly fine.
I can only imagine the work that goes into mastering a full orchestra recording.
I know.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. It sounds amazing, and Mick, it was recorded well, and it was. I like to think it was written well and performed well. So, he had his work cut out for him though, because it was live, and I had to do a lot of RXing of. I think it was Andre Previn who said that the musicians rehearse and prepare, and that's their job, and the audience's job is to show up and cough. So there's a lot of coughing in this recording that I'm trying to get out.
That's trouble of live recordings.
The struggle.
Yeah.
Yeah, live recording, as even we know, can be a task.
Yeah.
And you also you did a TED talk on the subject. It's,
yeah, I should be clear that it's a TEDx talk, which is different.
Okay.
But yeah, the difference being that like the TED organization did not invite me to speak. TEDx are independently organized. I don't know why I feel the need to preface that, but whatever. I did a talk. Someone asked me to come do a talk.
Yeah.
And I really used it so I keep talking about my agent, and I have two agents. One of them is a music agent, one of them is a literary agent. And my literary agent suggested that I do this TEDx talk because he thought it would help me like hone in the idea for my book. Because when you have to condense something into 8 minutes and make it like a nice tight 8-minute talk, you really get to know your subject.
Yeah.
And I have it would, if I had to do an hour talk, it would have taken me way less time.
And so what's your book about?
So I'm writing a book about technology and creativity throughout history. So we'll start in Mesopotamia and work our way forwards till we get to the end.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's the plan now. I have and that's something I can sort of talk about, which is I've got meetings with publishers, and there's some interest in it. So that'll probably happen.
Great idea. Sounds very interesting. Historic.
Thank you. Promise me you'll buy. So that's 2 copies of the book I've sold.
Yeah.
Right? Pre-orders.
We'll be staying tuned. Absolutely.
All right. Cool. Yep.
So did that kind of come about as like a passion project, or?
Yeah, I've always been a bit of an amateur writer. I write a lot of. I'm the editor for Thrive Global's music section, and I've always liked writing, and this just. Like a book is, there's kind of a specific criteria for if you should write a book as a, like I didn't want to do it indie. How do I put this? I'm not enough of a writer to want to like indie publish my book because I feel like I need to get it out there. But I do want to write it, but I only want to do it if I can do it with a publisher. So
that makes
yeah, so I felt like this idea, I sort of had the credentials to be able to do it with a publisher because I, plausibly an expert in this field.
Right.
Whereas if I wanted to write a book about, philosophy, I mean, I'm not a professional philosopher, so like that would just be some guy.
Yeah.
I don't have any academic credentials, so I'm just some guy writing some thoughts. Yeah. But in the world of AI and creativity, I'm a professional creative who's worked with artificial intelligence quite a bit. So
putting the two together and writing about it.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's not something I've ever done, so
yeah,
it's cool.
Yeah, and you don't hear about the artificial technology with music a lot.
No, you don't hear about, you don't hear a direct connection to it, at least. So it's cool that you're involved.
You're going to hear about it more. Longer,
it's cool.
in the next couple of years.
About all these new kind of innovative things that are going on with music. It's kind of a time for all of that.
On the precipice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know how much you want to get into this, but I know you also did work on the song with Lorde.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't have any like secrets really in my career. Like anything you found on my website, I'm happy to talk about.
Your current project, so we're being careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the project with Lorde is that's old enough that I can probably tell you all the details. And
cool.
But yeah, so the short story with that is I was working for when I moved to Los Angeles, I started working at Hans Zimmer's studio and the way that his studio works is like there's a bunch of other composers who work there, and I was like one of the assistants to one of those composers. So Hans might know me if he saw me as I kind of recognize that guy, but he didn't hire me. I was working for someone who was working for him. And so, but you're part of this sort of community over there. And so I was over there, and a friend of mine does trailers and asked me if I could do this trailer track with this singer that this was the summer of 2013. And at that point, Lorde was just some singer from New Zealand whose album had gotten a little bit of traction, like locally.
So this was
that was it.
A blow up. This was before she was like a household name.
This was like way before she blew up. This was, as if and so I did, this is like if in 6 months I was running for president and it was a plausible candidate, like this podcast episode would probably all of a sudden be very popular.
Right. Right.
So, yeah. The basically, we did this cover and we sent it to her. She sang it, sent it back, and we gave it to the film that had asked for it, and they basically were just like, whatever, we don't dig it. And then they couldn't sell it. This was summer of 2013, and then Lorde just blew up, won every Grammy, and all of a sudden this was the only thing that she had sung on, that had her vocals on, that was not released yet. And so anybody who wanted something from her, this was the thing that they wanted, and
very hype.
Got into a bit of a bidding situation, and Hunger Games ended up getting it for their soundtrack, and then a bunch of other trailers used it.
You must have felt great after that. You must have been like, all this work put in, finally to come out like this is like the best possible,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you guys on the one hand, yes. On the other hand, I signed a really shitty deal for that song, and it's nobody's fault. And I
like back in 2000, like initially when you had
initially at the time. So the way that trailer tracks work usually is like, you get a fee, and then you get like a piece. You get a fee to do it, and then you get like a piece of the fee if they sell it, and they can sell them for $100,000. So like 50% of $100,000. That's not bad for a weekend of work, right?
Yeah.
You only win. You don't win one a weekend. You win 2 a year or something. But still, it's it's pretty good. So we had finished this track, and like nobody. I think everybody would tell you that they knew as soon as they heard it, but when we did it, nobody really liked it. So, so I was like, so they sent me this deal that was, a pretty standard deal where I got some money for my fee and like a pretty shitty back end split, because it didn't go for the thing that we intended it to go for, and nobody thought that it was going to be good for anything else because nobody liked it. And I thought, because I'd never worked with these people before, if I didn't just sort of sign this contract, I wasn't going to get my fee, which is what I needed to pay my rent that month. Right. So, and in defense of the publisher, you can look them up, but I'm not going to name them. But basically, because they didn't do anything wrong, like they weren't trying to screw me.
They did like a standard industry move.
Yeah, it was a pretty standard deal, and so especially for me at the time, like I was totally unknown. I was like, this was the first thing I'd ever done, really, of any note for anyone.
It would be nice if they did, though, include something that would have helped you out if it did get successful, but they don't.
They might have done that if I had agreed to a lower fee.
Yeah.
But at that point in my life, I needed that money today.
You understand that,
Yeah, so like if I had come back to them and said like, you know what, I don't want the fee, I just want 15% of the revenue from the song going forward, they probably would have said yes.
Wow.
But I couldn't afford to do that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Did what you have to do, but it's a great story.
Yeah.
It's definitely an
it's cool.
Awesome piece on your resume as well. So
how did you choose this?
Yeah, that's a great track.
Was that the song, was that pre-chosen for you to do that song?
Yeah, the producer was a guy named Peter Shurkin, and like creatively it was really his brainchild. We did it, but the idea of putting Lorde and this song together was his idea.
Okay.
So it's interesting, like people like the term producer is a little bit of a joke sometimes, but it's also, the funny thing is that like these are the people who actually make stuff happen.
Right.
Like there is no way that I was going to call up Tears for Fears and then call up Lorde and figure this out for myself. And the idea wouldn't have even occurred to me to do it, but because someone who like has more business savvy had this idea, and also he this particular producer is just really involved and detailed in the notes, and like I think that song, I think what you hear is version 30 or something of that track. Like every time we sent it in, he was like, this is great, but add this, and this. And it's funny because like those types of people are the biggest pains in the ass to work with, but like you always end up with something good, like it's always worth it. And I never mind it. Like I love when someone is so involved in the project, detailed, because it just means it's going to be better than if I had done it myself. So
it's an interesting perspective because we're used to working alone on things so far. You know, and Lee's worked with a couple of producers, one who has a couple of Grammy nominations himself.
Shout out to George.
Yeah, he's great. Now, does he do the same thing? Does he?
No, I think he's kind of more like people go to him with the ideas.
It'd be interesting to get into that mentality of somebody overseeing the project.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, it's I mean that's part of the job when you're the composer in a film, is being that person.
Yeah.
And it's just a different, and I've done a few things. As one of the sort of bigger events I produced a concert of television music in Los Angeles called Score, and it was for the Emmys. It was like for the Television Academy, which is, you know, just an organization that produces stuff and also hands out awards.
Right.
And and so, you know, it was just this, like, to get some, you know, as a spectator, right? You go to a concert and you like see a bunch of shit and you forget about it, you know, or you remember it forever, but whatever, it takes 2 hours. But as to put something like that together, like all those ideas, someone had to have those ideas. And then, you know, someone had to like rent a fog machine and find a guy who knew how to do this specific kind of wire rigging and find a sound person who knows how to mic these particular instruments in a particular concert hall, you know?
Yeah.
And
well,
all that stuff just takes time and details.
One thing I've taken from talking to you is just how everything has to come together with what you're doing in the industry, whether it's music or film scores. You know, you have to really put just everybody has to come together as a team. So it's interesting.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, it's really easy. This is one of the things I found when I was younger, and I guess I learned this from my parents, is that it's pretty easy to have an idea. But it's pretty easy to start a project, but it's really hard to finish it, to like get through the middle of it where you definitely want to give up and are sort of sick of it, and then get it all the way to the finish line. And one of the things my first boss in Los Angeles talked about, my composing mentor, Michael Levine, another East Coaster, stuck in Los Angeles. But one of the things that he talked about was that most of the interns who come and even come from film school and like try to work at remote control and work for him, they do this thing where they'll get the ball to the 95-yard line and just spike it. You know, like they never quite get it over the finish line, because that's the hardest part, is like, absolutely, you know, to get it from like almost done to done is the difference between an amateur and a professional. You know, it's this much. Yeah. It's really amazing.
The mastering process, pretty much that last 5%. Just got to stick it in there and make it happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing to realize, and you know, a lot of people just don't, you know, and I certainly don't follow through on. I mean, I don't realize every idea that I have, but once I get it to a certain point, you know, sometimes you get brainstorming and you realize, man, that's a stupid idea. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But
it does happen. Sometimes you just have
to.
But
yeah, when you're on a film or something, or like television is a great example. Like television has a relentless schedule. And so when you start an episode of television, like you're going to finish it, and you're going to finish it next Thursday.
Yeah.
That just is it.
That schedule you have to abide.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, sometimes it's good to have a schedule to keep you moving, though. Keep you active.
Yeah, deadlines really focus the mind.
Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I had a question quick too, because this podcast is it came about from our band White Rabbit, and you know, what would you say to somebody who is trying to break into composing for TV shows or commercials or anything of that nature? Because we do a lot of instrumental music, and we've always wondered, how could we get into a video game? How could we get into something to do with that? What's the first step you would say on that journey?
Yeah, you got to be around the people who do that kind of stuff. That's the first thing I would say. And you know, for me, it's funny because I give everybody the same advice, like, you know, and everybody has a reason why they can't or won't or don't have to do this, and an example of someone who didn't. But like, if you want to be in entertainment, move to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be in jazz, move to New York. If you want to be in theater, move to New York or move to London. Like, you have to go where the stuff is happening. And you definitely can do it other places, and there are examples of people who do. But, you know, my philosophy has always been, even if I'm the most talented and best at everything, why would I not want to increase my chances of success?
Yeah.
Right.
Because like my chances of landing a feature film or having a career as a composer in New York City were pretty high, but my chances of doing it in Los Angeles were way higher. And so I moved to Los Angeles.
Makes
you
sense.
know, and that's the difference between you guys and me in going up for a job, and even a job, I don't know your music, but like, you know, you certainly do something that you probably do better than me. But if a client who wants that exact thing that you do knows me and doesn't know you, they're just gonna hire me.
Right.
Right.
That makes sense.
Because they know that I can deliver. Even if they've heard of you, they know that like, oh yeah, well, you know, we worked with Lucas on this and this, and he knows this guy and that guy, and we've done all these projects together. So if we call Lucas, he'll figure it out, and he'll make sure that we get it. And those kinds of relationships you have to build over years. And you can do it more virtually now than ever before. But yeah, you gotta figure out how to be around those people.
You gotta get your hands dirty. In other words.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
quite
So I'm not telling you to leave Providence,
No.
but and you don't have to, like, I mean, you also can visit, like, you know, but you guys are young. Just fucking go move to another place and try it out for a while.
Definitely putting it more
Yeah.
in my mind now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we appreciate that perspective.
Yeah.
I'll tell you so Richard Kraft, who is, I'll just name drop him because he's a person you should know. Find him on Facebook if you can. He is the agent for composers. He's not my agent, but he is like the agent for like, I mean, every cool project pretty much. He's the agent, and he's this just really interesting guy who loves music, and he's the agent of a family friend of mine. And so when I was first thinking about moving to Los Angeles, my friend arranged for me to have a call with him, and I didn't really know who he was, but he apparently has this reputation and this effect on everyone that I'm going to describe to you. So I got on a call with him. It took like 3 weeks to arrange what ended up being really, 15-minute phone call, because he's a very busy guy. And my the thing that I said to him was like, you know, I live in New York. I've got a band here. I've got a studio. You know, I won some awards. I work with NBC. I've got some stuff. I'm like established here, and I don't know if I want to uproot what I've got to move to Los Angeles. And he just started laughing. And like somewhat rudely laughing, and I was like, what? He's like, you're not established. Nobody's ever fucking heard of you. And like, you know, after I like stopped crying, I realized that he was right. You know, like in my circle of friends, I was the best composer, but my circle of friends was not going to like hand me a film with a 5-figure fee that I could do. You know, they were going to hand me a play that was happening in a black box theater for nobody. And so I moved, and I love doing that stuff, just for the record, and I still do. But yeah, so I moved to Los Angeles, and, you know, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Just being around the people who are doing the things that you want to do makes a big difference.
Oh, that's good information, good intel.
Well, yeah, we appreciate having you on and appreciate the advice. I just want to give you a minute here to plug anything maybe, or talk about anything that we might have missed that you want to talk about in particular.
Yeah.
Any last announcements?
No, I mean, honestly, I think I covered it. I release Spotify music pretty regularly, so if you just Lucas Cantor, you can find me on Spotify. I've, in the last, like I said, during COVID, I've gone through my back catalog, and I have like, I could probably release a song a week for like 2 years of just stuff that I haven't released that's ready to go. And so I'm slowly just sort of getting it out there. And yeah, anything. I mean, I love for people to listen to my music and give me some feedback. You can reach me through Instagram, which is just Lucas D. Cantor, or through my website. The email goes right to me. So I don't know if your listeners are aspiring composers. I'm happy to, you know, give them the same harsh advice I just gave you guys, or something more specific. And whatever. I just like talking about music, and I like talking about technology and artificial intelligence. And you know, while I am more busy than I was 3 months ago, it's still pretty slow, frankly. So, you know, I got time to hang out with people.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah.
And just taking all the time that you just did, man. And we appreciate you doing what you do with music, what you do with theater, and we're wishing you the best. You know, we're hoping that you keep going up and up and up, and keep getting your dreams, you know, right out in front of you.
Thanks, guys. Well, I hope the same thing for you. And next time I'm in New England, which I usually am 4 or 5 times a year. Maybe we'll have a drink in Providence.
Yeah.
I'll come see the band. That'd be even more fun.
That'd be great. We'll be back at it real soon.
All right, thanks, Lucas.
Awesome.
All right, have a good one, man. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
And that was Lucas Cantor. Wanted to just thank him once again for talking to us.
Yeah, taking the time out of your day to just give us a little rundown on all that. We appreciate all the valuable information.
It was a lot of fun talking to you, man.
Absolutely.
And so we just wanted to give a couple shouts once again to some projects that we have going on. There's going to be some new music coming soon from the Rabbit Hole. We have a new White Rabbit EP about to come out, Decadence. Just putting the final touches on that.
Everything's ready to go. We're doing the artwork today.
Yeah.
So.
And then
Let's
there's new Cosmic songs coming out, Cosmic Factory, Lifeline EP coming soon with some special music videos.
And there's some
real
special
cool
things happening with
Yeah.
this too, so stay tuned because there's going to be something happening with this album that's never happened with a local album that I've heard of before.
Yeah, do a little experiment. And yeah, that's and then Zach Gross single as well will be coming soon. Sushi Rolls.
Sushi
Be
Rolls.
on the lookout for that.
It's
Got an
coming
all-star
soon.
cast backing them up on that song.
Absolutely.
So
There's one more shout too to my personal project with Brian Rose, our last guest. We have our single coming out within the next month, and that's going to be exciting. So stay tuned if you want the chill, cool tape
Absolutely.
vibes and
yeah.
some chill guitars.
Right.
That's
And
my
and we're working on the fourth compilation, Down the Rabbit Hole compilation. So if you're interested in being on that, just send
Send
your
it.
tracks to rabbitholepvd@gmail.com, and we hope to feature you on that. So yeah, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.
subscribe, hit it, click
See
it,
you next time.
share it. See you next time.